I hung my ego up.
Last couple of years have come with like you getting married, birth of your daughter, about to have a son. How has your approach to the business changed?
One is I hung my ego up about like feeling a certain way about my sales number for the year.
So
What like
healthy.
yeah, like my threshold of like what a good year is probably higher than most people's at this point in my career. But like I've been building that for 15 years. Like I found myself going like, hey, my lifestyle is great at the income I'm at. And Kelly said this to me. She's like, Olivia and I don't care if we make an extra 50 or $100,000 this year.
Mm.
Olivia, in fact, doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
Why? Because her needs are completely met. All she cares about and all she knows is that you're not here. I love selling Cutco. I love the opportunity. I love my customers. The reality is like I don't live to work, I work to live.
Thanks for joining us on the CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire podcast. My name's Brett Wiggins, and I get to serve as your host. So what is a CSP? CSP is a Cutco sales professional. There are a lot of them out there, and they've all got a different answer to the question, why do you sell so much? Our mission is to find out the answer to that question from as many of them as possible. These next 60 minutes are designed for Cutco sales reps who desire to learn from our best in the field. So we interview top sales professionals from around the country with questions provided by their peers to make all that happen. 60 minutes of fire means we get straight to the point. Let's do it. Welcome to CSP Hot Hands 60 Minutes of Fire. Oh, we're at episode number 15, and I am so excited for our guest today. Half of an amazing Cutco sales power couple. We've got Seth Kinzer from our Minneapolis, Minnesota office today. North Star Division, and anytime Seth references a resource that's available to us, he'll share it with me after our time together, so that way we can spend the bulk of our time on the hard-hitting questions our CSP community has put together for him. I want to directly thank those of you who had questions selected for today's episode. It would not be very fire without your help. It'd be like afterwards, like you fall asleep at the campfire and you wake up and you're like freezing, but there's still coals that are hot. Definitely not fire, more like smoke. We got Benji Lehman, John Sasick, Luke Mills, all three very excited that you were coming on, and all three had questions selected for the episode. So thank you, all three of you, for submitting those. Seth, are you ready to jam?
Let's jam.
Let's jam. Let's do it. First of all, how long have you been selling Cutco?
I started selling Cutco in June of 2009. So 15 years I'll be celebrating here coming up. I started on Father's Day weekend. It was pretty great.
Nice. And we mentioned earlier before we started recording, 10K fast start, but you are from North Star. So that's just every other rep is 10K fast start.
Yeah, exactly.
What's the yearly breakdown for you typically look like? Like what percent is at the booth? Is there any Cutco gifting in there? Service, marketing? What's the breakdown for you like?
Yeah, so last year I sold 800 grand. About 150,000 of that came at the federal level, and then the bulk of that, probably at least 350 to 450, came at the booth at events, and then the other 200-ish, 200, 250 came through service events. Business gifts, which a lot of my business gifts are usually at the booth. There's definitely every year I've been getting progressively better at the follow up and capturing them after the fact. But I'd say at least half of that is past customer business. So
Awesome.
thankful to my Vast Action marketing team, which does a good job of making me look like I'm on top of things.
Shout out VA, Mueller team, all of them. They're pretty great.
They
Yeah,
are.
the business gifting aspect at the booth, it feels as though within the last, I don't know, year, that's really started to become a program versus a, hey, ask if they own a business while you're at the booth. What's like, when did you realize that was an area of opportunity at the booth, and kind of what has it become today? Now that it sounds like that's becoming a bigger part of your business. What was that initially, and then what is it now?
Yeah, well, I'm grateful and privileged that I work with John Clovey, who was basically the father, the godfather of this program, because at the booth at least, Rob Robinchuk obviously is amazing at business gifts through follow up and outside of the booth. But John Clovey was the first person that was like, hey, like every person, every time, do you own a business? Do you give gifts? So much so that, and I work alongside him at most of my, or at least I have in the past at most of my key events, especially. And he was so diligent at it, and I didn't get as diligent as I should have been at it until really the last 2 years, where I've been much more. But before, it used to be like, oh, I just sold a big order. I should ask what they do. You know, if they could buy an ultimate when they weren't planning on buying an ultimate today, or a signature. They obviously have disposable income. They're probably in business for themselves. So that was always a clue for me. But that became a big focus through John. That was probably like 6, 7 years ago, and it has slowly become more and more and more of a focus. And then I was able to bring that intentionally and focus to TGP, the Texas team, and that's become, that's blown up. And like now it's, again, like you said, it's a program in our company where it's like it's a major focus, and it's crazy now. It's not uncommon, at every event to, or at least key events, to hear like, oh yeah, sold them a set, I've sold them 10 gifts or 20 gifts or 30 gifts.
Our field is just like just so like how great are you guys? Like every single program, everything gets developed from there. It's like, oh, that's working. And it's like, okay,
And then
cool.
we
Let's see
share.
what and we share. It's a beautiful beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
What other titles do you have in life outside of Cutco sales professional? What are you?
I'm a father, brother, son. Thankfully, both my parents are really involved in my life. They actually help nanny for us. I have a daughter who's 2 years old, Olivia. We have a second little boy on the way, coming here in
Let's
about a month and a
go.
half. Yeah, and May 3rd due date. So that's pretty sweet. That'll be fun. A new challenge to juggle two kids. Now that we've finally figured out one, we figured to
Why
throw
not
a
just make it
chaos
harder?
grenade. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
just make it tough. It's just
Jim
like
Jim
layers of the
Gaffigan.
business,
Yeah,
It's
exactly. Like,
fun.
hey, we're gonna add a new layer. Only this one is just, he's gonna be cute and require a ton of attention and won't necessarily produce direct CPO yet.
Uh, what's the last fun thing the Kinzer clan did besides slinging blades? What was the last fun thing that you did?
We just obviously got back from the company trip in Madrid. That was amazing.
First
Kelly and I
super
just,
trip with
I
everybody. It felt
know
pretty
that
good.
was,
I
it
joke that you're
did.
still wearing the Real Madrid swag from the trip, so you have not taken that off in
Yep.
14
And
days.
then and
Yeah.
then I also have the net
Oh, dude,
2024. I'm just rocking all the
every trip
Cutco
you
gear
add
today.
one layer of clothing. This is great.
Exactly. By the end of the year, man, I'm gonna be well stocked for winter. So
For Minnesota, that's important. That could be.
yeah.
You mentioned 800K last year. What's your best year ever for CPO?
911,000. I sold that
Nice.
in 21.
Cool.
Which, man, I wish I had known that they were gonna make the M2 Rolex a thing sooner, because I took off the entire spring basically and traveled with Kelly. We just did fun trips with friends and coworkers, and then the summer just went exceptionally well. The fall went exceptionally well, and I finished at 911,000. And I'm like, man,
Yeah, come on, guys. That
if
was that was
only I had
one
known.
that was one key marketing campaign for the spring. What are we doing?
Yeah,
Uh,
just do a few more service events in the spring, and that 80K is there.
it's
But
so good.
oh well.
I just had Bert on the end. He was our last episode of 2023, and hearing his journey and how so many of you guys in your division, but just also just in the CSP crew helped him along, that was really special. So I feel like Bert hitting it, it was you had something to do with that. You helped out with us.
Oh, 100%. I wrote up a lot of ROR for that guy. I mean, he gave me some too. It's a symbiotic relationship.
Oh, that's good. So I had Luke Mills on a while back, and he said, I mentioned that you were going to be on. He said, hey, you got to ask him about the year where he went cross training the most. And he kind of said it like he'll know what you're like. Seth will know what you're talking about. What did you get? Like what influenced you to like really go after cross training as aggressively as you did, going and watching other CSPs across the country. But what'd you get out of that season of the business, and how do you feel like it helped you the most?
Yeah. So one, the cross training program is like the most underutilized resource in Cutco. It's
Okay.
amazing to me that people will spend they'll literally invest 5% of their sales to be mentored by somebody, but they won't fly across the country and do it for free. I mean,
Mm,
again, it's a small investment on our part. So that's something I've always taken advantage of. I believe I'm still in the business because of the cross training program. Because in 2010, well, actually 2011. I started selling Cutco full time. I sold, 40 grand from January to June. So the first 6 months of the year. And then I cross trained with Curtis JQs. And back then, again, scripts weren't shared nearly as much. Like if you went and cross trained with somebody, then you would maybe get their script. Anyway, I went and cross trained with him. It was, I watched him at a small little craft, street fair sell 4 or 5K, which again, back then, like, whoa. And he's
yeah.
just like, yeah, like it was just a casual. He sold 5K and he got his new customer script. I memorized it, internalized it, personalized it. But like that summer, then basically the back half of the year, the last 6 months, I sold 140 grand and sold 180 grand my first year selling full time. And so like that was like the catalyst. And so I've crossed trained with Curtis now over 10 times. I've crossed trained with Josh Muller 3, 4, 5, 6 times. I've obviously I've mentored with Jason Jeffrey, with Curtis, with Josh. Um, one of the with Josh and Luke and Rob's program, but one of the year I cross trained the most. It was I literally like flew down to Arizona for a week during the CSP push, which is like again the time that you want to be winning prizes and selling the most. I went down for I think it might have been more than a week, so I think I crossed him with Jason for a week, and I think and I tacked on then a couple of days with Luke at the end of it too. Watched him on service calls, but I asked myself like, hey, what's going to influence me to sell more? It's watching Jason when he's at his very best. If I'm on a cross train, and I could go and see him for 1 or 2 days, but if I'm going to make the investment to go there, like let's like really maximize it. I saw him like 2, 3 days I think it was 3 days at the booth and then 3 days of service calls, and it was so impactful. Um, and then I went and cross trained with Luke for a few more days of service calls, and it's just again, it's a free. It's like the company literally invests money into it. It's a relatively free program. All the certified cross trainers across the country are all awesome people to hang out with, um, and it's a very underutilized thing. But what I learned from that was just again, like I looked at it as like, hey, like I could win 3, 4, $500 in prizes potentially, or I could gain knowledge that'll make me tens of thousands of dollars. Again, seeing Jason at his very best in his peak state,
It's
selling
just
the
so much
most.
different seeing someone in the moment modeling exactly what they're trying to teach you. That, in my opinion, that's the best way to learn, is to just watch them do it. And then, it's like, okay, here's my version of that. If there's somebody listening right now that they don't even know what this program is, whatever, what would your advice be for somebody who's either doesn't know about it or is like gun shy, like, I just, I don't know if I need to spend the money. I can watch videos, or I can hop on a national call and listen. Like, what would you tell them as far as like how this is going to have a different type of impact?
One is figure out who the cross trainers are. Two is figure out who's close. Three, figure out whose schedule lines up with yours. And obviously it's most impactful when you can see it and then implement it right away. So when in your year makes sense.
Mm,
For me, again, it was like I did a really big push that first year with Curtis. Like I was going to be going into my county fair schedule, July and August. And so like I was like, hey, can you do it? Like I had one kind of one window of opportunity, and like I literally like he like moved stuff around, got an like booked an event for me. And again, like that's not always going to be the case, but it's like he literally moves. He called, Robert's like, hey, Danbury, and it's like, hey, like I need an event, and he's like, well, what do you mean? He's like somebody needs to come cross train with me, like I need an event, and like he very graciously moved stuff around, and then like I like again invested the money, went out there and did that. Um, for people
just
that don't
just to
know,
speak to how awesome the CSP community is, like people willing to be assertive and that want to learn. It's like, dude, let's do it. Like that
yeah,
fires people up. Anything uh left on just how it had that impact, or anything you took away from that total cross training experience that's kind of helped you get to where you're at now?
just do it. I mean, especially like come cross train with me in the second half of July and August. I sold $330,000 in those 32 booth days. Bert Wicks, who's selling next to me the entire time, sold $330,000 that same time. So we sold $660,000 between the two of us in 32 booth days. Like, find a time in July or August to fly out to North Dakota, fly up to Minnesota, fly to
This is
Iowa.
your invitation. Just,
Yes.
let them
And
know.
then, yeah. And then if the fall is better for you, Josh Muller at the State Fair of Texas, you could see Curtis Jacques, Josh Muller, Ryan Carter, like just legends in the business. And again, like
Let's
you
fill
come to
the booth.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like there are 32 booth days that I have. That's like you're welcome to train. It's like, and it's first come first serve. So we actually like put a limit on it. Where it's like, hey, you can have two cross trainers in the booth at a time, just so that it's not like an overwhelming thing, but
Right.
it's majorly impactful. And again, you look at the people who are selling the most, they're the ones investing the most.
Mm.
Just Mike Tortora is a great example of just the cross training effect. He's obviously been investing a lot into himself, but he's like number 5 in the whole country right now. He's at 170, 180,000 for the year. And he is coming cross train with me multiple times, me and Bert at the Iowa State Fair, 2, 3, 4 days. He's watched me, he's watched Bert, he's watched Mike Dowd. And it's like, and again, it's no surprise that like he's having his best year ever.
Big Mike Datura fan. Huge Mike Datura
Yeah,
fan. From
good
some
guy.
Midwest love. Something that I pick up on after having so many of these conversations is that there are a lot of different ways to sell Cutco. And it's been cool for me because, there are people will swear like, hey, this is why I sell so much. And it can be a completely different, sometimes even like opposite sales philosophy to someone else. But, based on their design or what makes sense to them, like it is maybe why they sell so much. And I believe you fall more on the side of like the full price selling model. And tell me a
Mhm.
little bit about like what that is, why that you feel like that works best for you, and why like you kind of lean that way when it comes to whether it's giving a discount or that. Why do you feel like you just feel really in line when it comes to that type of sales philosophy?
If you're still tracking and categorizing all your own expenses, I have a message from your CPA. Stop. If you're listening to this podcast, chances are your goals include growing your sales. And one way to do that is delegating admin responsibilities by trading time for money. Rising Stock and MyBooks.pro is exactly what you need. Rising Stock is an all-encompassing financial tracking and coaching program, where MyBooks.pro is exactly what it sounds like. They just do your books. You can choose to just have them track your expenses or take advantage of everything they have to offer. Do your business and your CPA a favor by scheduling a free intro call today at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's.
Yeah, great question. So it was 2015 or 16, I believe,
Mhm.
that I like made the switch. And I remember it's hilarious how this all comes full circle. But Josh Curry, who is used to be in the business, CSP, awesome guy. He had bought a full price binder from Mike Dowd, and it's hilarious because Mike now is the kind of the guy that's like does the deals and discounts, but like Mike was the one that pioneered the idea, like, hey, like why let's keep our leverage. Why would we start off giving a discount when it's like it doesn't matter what the price is, because somebody like you could say, like I just bought a rainbow play set for my daughter, and it says retail value $9,000, sale price 4,300. It doesn't matter that it's half off in a sense, because
Right.
like they just made up that price.
By
Again,
the
like
way, go
no,
Olivia. That's a nice one. That's gonna
yeah,
last.
yeah. I'm a believer in buy quality.
Did you pay for assembly, or are you going at it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like $400, like for sure you're gonna assemble this. But it's again, it doesn't matter what the price is, because the reality is like people always want a deal, they always want an incentive, they want to feel great about what they're doing. So I want to stack the deck in my favor, where it's like, hey, why would I start off knowing the psychology of sales, and knowing that a customer, like I know how I like to buy. I like to get a deal, but at the same time too, I'm like, but if they're just giving this deal to everyone, then it's not a deal. That's just what you sell it for. And so again, it doesn't matter, I say this, I preach this all the time. It doesn't matter what deal a customer gets, it matters how they feel about the deal. And so that's like a thing I preach to everyone. I'm like, hey, it matters more how you frame the deal and how you position it. And again, I do it in alignment. It's like, hey, like Cutco sets the prices. Is that a factual statement? 100%. I do not set the prices. In fact, customers are entitled to my commission because that's 100%. If I go a dollar below the price of Cutco that they set, that's just my commission that I'm spending. So, yeah, I developed that. And then like, what's great is you gain so much more loyalty when you're transparent with your customers. Hey, full transparency. Like I don't set the prices, Cutco does. That's true. Like here's what I'm doing extra for my customers though to give you extra incentive to do business with me today. And then it's like doesn't matter what. If it's an easy ultimate, then I'm going to give them something after the fact. If it's an easy, if it's a walk up, I'm still going to give them something. Maybe it's just a peeler that I have on hand, but it's like I'm still going to give them something to make that deal special. And again, whether it's $10 off, $50 off, $100 off, it doesn't matter again what the deal is. Ultimately, it matters how they feel about the deal. So
Mm.
that's like my philosophy there is spend the money or spend the time doing the salesmanship, explaining how it works. Because if you come up and you're like, hey, how much is this set? I'm like, oh, it's 4,600. We have it on sale for 3,700 here. And then you're like, cool, I'll take it. Okay, cool, awesome. What color do you want? And then from there, like, hey, I want Brett. I really like you. I appreciate that this has just been a fast, efficient interaction. Just as a reward for your business and like something that I want you to be loyal to me. If one of these were to fall in your kitchen for free, out of these gadgets, these are like 50 to 70 bucks a piece, and they're forever. Like, which one we get the most value out of? And it's like it's that easy. And again, when I'm explaining discounts and deals too, I'm like, hey, by the way, they set the prices, not me. But what I'm doing for my customers here to give you extra incentive is, you get concierge service from me. I'm going to keep in touch with you. I'm going to be your service guy. On top of that, I'm also including some extra little bells and whistles to make it a no-brainer. And then, from there, it's like just tailoring the deal to the customer. And obviously, the more experience you get, the more you can feel where they're at
It's
and ask
so
questions.
true that the framing and their expectation of it is the most important part because we can B block stuff all day. We can do all that. But if it's not framed correctly, they're like, I'm good. It's like, what's good? You're like
Yeah.
30% off. But then at a full price, you can frame it to be able to make them feel awesome. So you're right. It's how they feel about it. It's not the actual deal itself, right? Now, do you run
100%.
into because obviously on an events team, there are multiple people working the same booth that might have different ring philosophies. Is there
Hmm.
anything that a rep might need to know when they're working with somebody who might view that differently? They might view more of the discount side of things than another rep does. Is there any keys to that?
One is like having clear conversations ahead of time. So like on our team, especially at our key events, especially when there's multiple booths, it's hey, we're quoting from the book. Like
Okay.
everyone has this exact same specialist book, and we're quoting from the book. Now, deals you can work out with your customers is fine. Like we still give ourselves we still have the leeway to make deals and to do it for not the book price if we need to, or throw in extra stuff. And like I mean, again, there are times where like the deals are crazy, but that's definitely not where we're starting. And it's definitely not
Yep.
it's that we're never quoting that not outside of the book.
As long
It's
as
like it's
everybody
that
has the same starting price,
yes.
everybody's on the same page. That's the important part. Okay.
Because
And
yeah, because you run into price shoppers and it's like we want to be in conjunction because again, maybe they already bought and now you just completely undermined the interaction the other person had, their
that would
trust.
never cause any issues, Seth. That
Yeah,
would, that would never
exactly.
piss anyone off.
I've
No.
I've worked enough multiple booth events to one, and that's another thing too. Like by the way, when you are working an event with multiple booths, something you should be doing with every customer is hey, but like priming them for the fact that there are other booths. Hey, by the way, Brett, we actually have another booth over in the other aisle or over in the other building. My buddy John's working over there. Hey, when you walk by, make sure you like wave my brochure and say, hey, Seth sold. You better get in your sales because Seth's beating you for the contest. Right. And so
Oh,
like I
that's
make it
good.
fun. So it's like I both so now it's like my customers almost tip their hand. Like they're not trying to price shop. I'm like, hey, like I know there's another booth over there. They're the same team, they're the same prices,
Oh, dude,
but
the
we're all on
second that
commission.
you were like, "Hey, I appreciate," obviously you frame it to each conversation, but you're like, "You were fast, you were efficient. I want to honor that. You're on my Cutco team now. Which of these gadgets do you want?" Dude, I'll wave a flag with your face on it after that by the other booth.
Right?
How
Yeah.
what would your response be to a rep who says, you know, they struggle building value in buying today at the show for that full price philosophy you're talking about without offering a discount? If a rep says, "Hey, I struggle getting customers to pull the trigger unless I offer a discount or a ton of free stuff." If a rep feels like that's the only way and that's the reason they're selling, any mindset shifts that you'd encourage them to make or any questions you'd encourage them to ask themselves?
Yes. One is we create the urgency. So again, just know that if your customer doesn't buy today, it could be a year, 2 years, 5 years until they see Cutco again. Five more years of them suffering with crappy knives. 5 more years of price increases, which are happening every year now, right? It's like you have no idea when the next time they're going to see Cutco is. So one, urgency of today. Like, hey, the best time to have bought Cutco was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The second best time is today, right? It's like, why is that? Because it'll never be cheaper than it is today. And again, you can say that with a straight face, knowing the fact that it's like, again, they're not entitled to your commission. Like, sometimes I think I used to get stuck in this mindset of like, well, what if they see it somewhere else for a different price? It's like, one, they don't ever remember the price. 99.9% of our customers never remember the price. They remember it was really expensive and it was totally worth it. Two, it's like it just it the you need to be a detective and a question asker of like, hey, like I know you said you've been struggling with knives. Like, why are you going to kick this can down the road? It's like we create the urgency. Like, hey, by the way, like you might come back to the show and buy, but if you don't buy from me, I get no credit for it. Like we're actually 100% commission. So I'm just like really honest. I'm 100% commission based. So like I want to be the one to earn your business because even if you came back and we're like, no, we work with Seth. We want Seth to get credit for it. I'm still gonna have to give a chunk of my commission to my coworkers because we all work as a team, but like I had to compensate them for their time. So because of that, I'm really incentivized to earn your business while you're here.
I just love how you use
They,
the guardrails of our business as opportunities to build value, to be able to build urgency. And man, you've got to be able to sleep well at night going, my interactions with customers are 100% transparent. Like I put it all out on the table. It just makes sense to me, you know?
yeah, and again, like they don't know what parameters we have or what deals we have. It's like I'm negotiating with somebody right now on business cards and brochures, and it's like I have no idea what his margin is. I don't know what price he could give. He's like, well, like this is, I could give you 10% off. Like, how would you feel about that? I mean, if you feel like you need more, like I'll see what I can do. I'm like, I have no idea what his like he already like I know 10% is like on the table, like for sure. He already showed me that card. So it's like I'm like, well, should I ask for this price? Should I ask like now the world's my oyster versus me going like, hey, here's how it works. They set the price, I sell the product. Here's what I can do extra. And now it's like it's really clear. It's like there's no like negotiating on price.
I feel
There's
like
no
it really
haggling on
limits,
price.
uh, uh, it really limits objections too. Like,
100%. Like I
yeah,
used to haggle with people on price all the time, and like I don't do that anymore. Like that happens so rarely. Where again, if I am, I'm always doing it like with the never split the difference. Things I
mm,
learned there. It's like I'm always using a very specific price when I'm dropping it, and I'm always tailoring it to the situation. Are these people that have been bringing up price multiple times throughout the conversation? Be like when you're really honest with yourself, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like no, they needed a deal. I'm like, did they? Or do you just need to ask more questions? Did like like they said they needed to think about it, and your first response was to offer them a better deal. Maybe they didn't need a better deal. Maybe they just
not
needed to.
like you're really telling me that's kind of lazy, right? That's just like I didn't want to
Yeah,
ask the questions to find out why. Yeah.
it's literally like you're like I don't want to like maybe like the easiest thing to do is just hey, what if I gave you a better deal? Would that change anything? And like maybe like their objection is like they don't have the credit card that they want to use for the order. Maybe it's that simple. Maybe it's like, oh, like she really needs to go to the bathroom. We'll come back. Like it could be something just like super stupid. And like I go, oh my gosh, if that's the issue, like that's a super simple
Yeah.
fix. So
Oh,
and
so
again,
good.
they
You're
yeah,
selling me. You're selling me.
you gotta direct the customer on like what to do and what to think. And it's like again, they think like he's done a great demo, he's done a great pitch. I'm not 100 like I'm not ready to like say yes right now, or I want to talk to my spouse, but like, I don't know how to do that in front of him. So the natural thing to do is to break and leave. But I go, hey, by the way, I'm sure you guys want to, like, this is a big purchase. I'm sure you guys would want to talk about it. I found the best time to talk about it is in front of the knives, but not in front of me, the salesperson.
Oh,
So let
so
me do this. Let me give you guys a little space to chat about it. And then when I come back, wave me over when you guys have kind of come to a decision. If you guys have any questions before you leave, no worries. I'll be happy to answer those and get you guys on your way.
put me
And then I'd be
behind the
back then.
booth, man. Put me behind the
Right?
booth. I'm ready. We've got quite a few reps who listen to the podcast, and they're in that 2 to 300K range for personal sales. And what I feel like there's like, no matter where you're at, you always feel like that next level is what proves to yourself that you're really good at this. Like if you're at 2 to 300, it's like, I got to get to 500 or I suck. If you're at 500, you got to get to 750. What do you feel like causes that jump from that 2 to 300K level to that $500,000 level in a year? And I'm sure it's different for everybody. Everybody's got a different situation. What have you witnessed and what did you experience?
So just to clarify, you're saying like they're selling 2 to 300 a year and they're jumping to 400, yeah. 500,000. Yep. So for me, it was a decision. I think a lot of times like we kind of think like, oh, like I grow linearly. Like, so it's like I sold 200 this year. So maybe I can, I'll get better at my scripts, which just to challenge people. Like, I don't think people actually review their scripts. Like, I think that people are lazy. Like, I know because I fall into being lazy sometimes where like I am working on, implementing Cuckoo Kitchens with every single person, like implementing I am going to be pitching them the Cuckoo Kitchen as my intro. And when I come back into the booth after, being away for a month or two, I find myself falling right back into the rhythm of I pitch knife sets and then I kind of talk about the kitchen. And I'm like, I'm not introing, I'm not doing my power intro. So one, I would challenge the fact that I think a lot of reps are lazy. We need to go back and actually be willing to blow up our demo and like revamp it. Stop falling into the same bad habits that we've been doing. And then two, like you don't need to grow linearly. You can grow exponentially. And that exponential growth is literally just a decision. It's a decision to like, hey, like I'm gonna be a 500K rep. Now, if I can't work anymore, then that means I need to be way more efficient. So if I'm gonna be way more efficient, that means I need to be selling more package deals. I get, if I'm getting 8 to 10 orders, per day at an event, great. How can, one, how can I be a little bit more of a closer and get that to 10 to 12? And then B, two would be like, how can I increase, since I can only have so many interactions in a day, how can I increase the amount that I'm selling them? Again, I remember one year I was 21. I was so dialed into package deals and kitchens that it's like, I didn't sell very many kitchens. I think I sold like 2 or 3 maybe that whole year. But because I was so focused on that, I sold a crazy amount of bundle deals. And it was like, again, I'm getting the same amount of orders, but my orders are now $3,000 to $5,000. I had so many more $3,000 to $5,000 orders, and those are such needle movers. Where again, that was my first year. I averaged $10,000 a day at the booth for 32 booth days, and it's like my first day going after this goal. I had set this intention, this goal. My first day, I sold $2,100, and I was like, that's not a great start to an at 10K a day average. But I just focused on this, doing the same thing in the discipline of Cuckoo Kitchens every single person, bundle deals, package deals. And it's like, again, you got to expand your mind and your belief in like what's possible. And also just like be unattached to the results. Like I didn't, at North Dakota State Fair, I sold that year, I sold 105,000 in 9 days. And I wasn't focused on I set the goal and the intention. I wanted to average $10,000 sales days. And then I just went and worked. I just released limitations and worked. I had two $20,000 plus sales days that fair than those 9 days. And it's like, and on those sales days too, my foot didn't come off the gas the entire day. It's like I was working with the same amount of intensity at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night as I was at 11 a.m. because it doesn't matter what I'm at for the day, because my goal is not a CPO number. My goal is the biggest and best version of me.
When you have that belief too, that you can pop a 3, 4, 5K order, it's hard not to have hope at noon when you're at 0 or at 6 o'clock when you're $1,000 or whatever, because you've done it. You've seen a 3, 4, 5K pop all at once. It would be a little bit I don't want to say easier, but it'd be easier to have that hope that, hey, the day anything can still happen once you have that pitch down. It reminds me of your 10K average at the booth. Reminds me when I was a rep, I'm sure you too. Vector Connect Talks was like, that was my jam. Like I had, and John Berghoff's were my favorite. And he had one over average order. And he talked about what $1,000 average order looks like. It's not a thousand. It's like peeler, cutting board, studio, ultimate, $300 customs. And you're describing the exact same thing. A 10K per day average looks like 2, 3, 25, 5,
Yep.
12, 6. Like it's all over the place. You talk about knowing that's your goal, knowing you're trying to max out each day. You get in the booth, you disconnect from that goal, and you're just like, I'm maximizing every single interaction. But I'm sure there comes a point in those days where maybe even during your 20K day where you have a bad interaction. And it doesn't always have to end in a customer getting upset. Maybe it just ends in like a sale that you let go, or like something happened and whatever. You're smiling right now. So it's funny that I'm about to say this. You're literally, every time I see you, there's a big smile on your face. And you seem to be a very, very positive dude. What's your go-to? What's your keys to, like, after a bad interaction, or maybe just after an off day at the show? How do you get that turned around and not waste another interaction or waste another day?
Working with Trent Booth and the Veritas Leadership Group over the last decade has unlocked things within me that I never knew existed until they were coached out of me. If you're listening and you feel stuck or like you have another gear that you're having a hard time getting to, Trent's offering a free intro call to any of our listeners. I love Veritas because it's an amazing combo of mentoring and coaching. I get what I need when I need it most. It's also a flat monthly rate, which is awesome for anyone looking to give it a shot with no contract and no long-term commitment. Schedule a call with Trent today by going to linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the two E's.
Couple things. One is just like my mantra from a very young age in Cutco is just like, so what? Who cares? Who's next? So what? Who cares? Who's next? Time and CPO, again, this is a newer mantra of mine, but like time and CPO are not related. Time and CPO are not related. It's like, it doesn't matter because again, it could be a cut, like it could be one interaction where I just get the right person and I'm dialed in. Like, again, when I'm dialed in, I can maximize them. Versus, again, I run the risk if I let my emotions dictate how I feel and how I interact with customers, then I risk missing the whale and not landing the whale. And again, I can follow up with them. It's like, but it's like all of a sudden you sell Cutco Kitchen and you upsell them 25, 50, 100 gifts. Those people are out there. They're at every single event. If you are willing, if you have the skill set, the knowledge, the belief, and the engagement to uncover them. And this is something I think I learned. I mean, this is probably, I'm going to credit it to Josh Muller, but it's just like when there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. It's just like it's only you're only one or two interactions away from feeling totally different about your sales day. And it doesn't matter what Bert's selling next to me or what John's selling next to me or what Jill's like. Great. If they're selling a ton, awesome. Celebrate that and know that they're talking to the same customers you are. Maybe it's turn roulette. I can't control that. But what I can control is manifesting who I want to come to me, picturing them in my mind. And then just having the most fun and the most maximization of every interaction. It's like some people, it's like, you're like, oh, like I sold them $300, but like I maximized, like that was like what they were going to spend. And in fact, they were trying to spend, $100 and I got them to 300. Awesome. Celebrate that and move to the next person. And then you sell them an ultimate, you upsell them a flat where you're like, cool, I just sold them 3,500, 4K CPO. Cool. Who's next? And it's like, so often people ask me, especially like people that are cross training, like when I'm having a good sales day, it's just like when the order's done, like if it goes on my clipboard, it goes back down and I'm like, who's next? Because it doesn't matter. It's like, again, at the end of the day, I can count up my sales when there's no more interactions to be had. But I'm here to make money, make sales, maximize my full potential and the event's full potential.
Sounds like you are down to whatever I'm doing. I'm going to max this opportunity out and then it's over. I move on to the next one. I don't rest on it. I don't dwell on it if it didn't go well. Something else you're known to maximize is your high kick from stage. I've heard it is the best in all the CSP world. Have you measured height on this bad boy? Like actual, do we have any recorded
Well,
footage of this or
I
data?
I am 5'9", and the high kick is at my head's level. So in
It's
fact,
a
I
full
do.
Seth. It's a full
Yeah,
Seth.
exactly. It's a full set send. It was actually it was an unfortunate planning error on my part. I didn't get to do it at net 24 because I wore a suit that did not allow for
Oh
high
yeah,
kicks. I was like,
you
that's
can't
a
risk the
hundred
suit.
percent.
You
I
can't
was like,
risk the
this is a
suit.
100% gonna tear my suit. I was like, I should have wore
That
the
that's
Lulu
a
stretchy
day
pants.
three jeans and the t-shirt thing. That's
Yeah,
only day three.
exactly.
The high kick from stage. If you haven't seen it, you have to. Before time's up, got to see
All
the
right.
Seth Kinzer high
All
kick.
right. Sounds good.
John Sasick actually wanted me to make sure I asked you about the high kick. Um,
Yeah. Something I did
so
randomly, and it just like people loved it. So I was like,
was
you
there
know
an
what?
origin? No, yeah.
I
What
should
was the
be.
origin? Was it
The
just one
origin
talk? You
was,
just
I think I like literally like they were like, hey, what's some fun random thing about you? And it's like I have incredibly good high kicks. Like I don't have like that's not something I do on a regular basis. I don't know. Maybe like I think at some point like it's like maybe after a Tony Robbins thing, I was like, make your move. It was just like I was like, yeah, like physiology, and so there was times where like I'd be like doing push-ups in the booth. I would be doing high kicks, just being goofy, and I did that on stage once. I think it was at Net, and they just love it. It's in fact. Dave Bush told me that like Eileen literally talks like with their new hires, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, there's this guy at Net. He does high kicks." I'm
we
like,
need
so
Dave,
now it's just
We need Seth Kinzer high kick net shirts next year. I think they will fly
yeah,
off the shelves. It'll be good. So last couple of years have come with like you getting married, I think 4 or 5 years ago, birth of your daughter, about to have a son. Your family's like been created and expanded pretty quickly. How how has your approach to the business changed as your life has changed? Because this isn't 2010 where I'm sure it was a single out of college student Seth. This is a whole different ball game now. What's changed in terms of like how you view the business and how you work it, and what have you gotten better at and all that?
yeah. Great question because that's something that like I kind of reflected on. One is I hung my ego up. Like 23 was when I like hung my ego up. About like feeling a certain way about my sales number for the year. Like
So
my threshold
healthy,
of like what
man.
a
So
what like
healthy.
yeah, like my threshold of like what a good year is probably higher than most people's at this point in my career. But like I've been building that for 15 years. Like my threshold is the last 2 years, 22 and 23. 22 is when we had Olivia. And it was just like Kelly and I had a really good conversation. Like I've always thrown myself into like full send whatever I'm doing. And so it was really, there was times where like I was willing to be the road warrior and I like would work any event that I could do. And I did that for years. And it finally came to a point like in 22, like when we were having Olivia, like I was already like kind of building some good balance into like my spring schedule, like just focus on the family. And then, I get into my state fair season and it's like crazy for like a month and a half, 2 months, but then we go right into the Texas State Fair and then like that's crazy. And at the end of that year, I sold 800K and Kelly, it's like for me, it was always like, how can I grow? How can I, expand? How can I sell more in the same amount of events? How can I keep, and I was just rinse and repeat the same events every year. And I finally got to a point where it's like, hey, like, what did you build your massive database for? What did you like? It's so you could work your database. Like start working your database. You don't need to be on the road. You don't need to be on the road 100% any like all the time. Burning the candle at both ends, hair on fire, 100 miles an hour. And so I just again hanging the ego up. It's like to me, it's like oh, I got to be in the top five. It's like and really like I want to be in the top three, and I was for years. Like that was always my kind of my threshold. But it's like who I'm competing against might be at a totally different place in their life
Yep.
than me. And all at the end of the day, like, why would I attach uh, how I feel about myself to like an arbitrary number that like, hey, like this person's killing it this year. Maybe they worked really hard at a certain system or a certain program and like it's really working for them. In 2020, it's like actually 2020 was one of the things that was like the glass broke, and it like really actually helped me because there was so much out of my control. I didn't have events, which were like my bread and butter. And I still found a way to scrape together 550,000 because I wanted to earn Australia for free. And it was like, it was super hard and difficult and challenging, but like we made it happen. But in that year, like CGCs were killing it because real estate was amazing, and they had these databases of CGCs, and they were or of realtors, and they were just reordering, and they were killing it. And I found myself going like, hey, it doesn't like my lifestyle is great at the income I'm at. And Kelly said this to me. She's like, Olivia and I don't care if we make an extra 50 or $100,000 this year.
Mm.
Olivia, in fact, doesn't care at all.
Yeah.
Why? Because her needs are completely met. All she cares about and all she knows is that you're not here. It's like, yeah, you can FaceTime for 10, 15 minutes in the morning and 10, 15 minutes at night. But it's like all she knows is that you're not here. And so that was like the real, like, I was like the dagger in my ear was like, yeah, like ultimately, I love selling Cutco. I love the opportunity. I love my customers. But I've said this multiple times. It's like if I was independently wealthy, I'd have no problem like hanging it up and like handing my, selling or handing my business over to somebody else. Like the reality is like I don't live to work. I work to live. And so having this healthy balance of like both like how can I challenge myself? So for me, it's how can I expand my capacity so I can keep selling, 800K while working less in the field. That doesn't necessarily mean working less. It just means working less in the field. Like, how can I shift my focus so that I can be home more often? I can work my database more often. How can I create more bandwidth for myself to again live a great lifestyle, but also be there for my family more? Because in 10 years, if I've sold an extra 500,000 or $1 million in 10 years, but I've been gone 30 to 40% more often, and I've missed out on all these things I'll never get back. These time with my daughter, time with my son, time with Kelly. It's like I'll never get that time back. And so just prioritizing, like again, hanging up the ego. It's like it doesn't matter if I'm in the top five or if I'm in the top 10, if I'm in the top 20. It's like if other people keep expanding and pushing the envelope and selling more, that's awesome. But what do I need? What do I need? For me, it's like my kind of like flag is like, hey, like I want to find ways to sell 800K. Well, I'm going to cut out these two events. I'm going to be on the road a little bit less this year. Maybe I'll do some more, so and then I'll look at creative ways that I can maybe do some more work in my own area where like, cool, maybe I'll do a couple more service events, but like I'm okay just cutting something from my schedule and just having it be open. It's like I have the next couple of months open, for the most part, where like I'm working on like one event and like I'll have some service events. I'll run my sale online, you know, but it's like, and then like I'm home for the next like 3 months, which is like unheard of, for me, and so even, again, the federal program, I'm taking a step back from it this year. And that was something where it's like, I loved doing that, like going internationally, especially to Italy, like Michelin star meals, like such a fun experience, so great. But it's like now all that represents is just time away from my family, time away from
Yep.
Olivia and Kelly and soon to be a baby boy. And it's like I did that, and it was a great season of my life, and now I'm ready for the next season of my life, and just being okay with being where you're at. The challenge to you, the CSB community, is ask yourself where you're at.
Yep.
If you're single and single and open, like, and you don't have a massive database, if you don't have 3, 4, 5,000 plus customers already, like you're in customer acquisition mode. Like you need to like grind your butt off and like get there if that's your goal. But again, like
Yep.
ask yourself where you want to be. Like what type of rep do you want to be? Do
Like
you
just
want to be a
recognizing what season of your business that you're in. And yeah, I become more and more impressed with the long-term sustainable performances than I do like that 1 year that somebody sells X amount and then they fall off the face of the earth and they have to take a
Mhm.
break. Like being able to create a business that actually re-energizes you because your priorities are in order, that like slowly builds over time, is so much more exciting. And I think it's really cool that it only took you a year of kind of parenthood and having a full family to like be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna pivot right now. I'm not gonna wait until X
Mhm.
date to be able to do it, because a lot of people do. I mean, they don't
Yeah.
realize it until it's kind of too late. It goes, and now, she's about to be 2. Like it goes fast. It was
Dude,
really,
it's
really,
so fast. We
really
have a
quick.
picture frame that like rotates pictures, and it's like just seeing her like, oh my gosh, look at how much bigger she is. Like she was so small. Like we're about to have another like so small baby, and again it goes so fast, and like you just want to soak it up when you can, and again recognize what season you're in, and then also just like be fully present. Like
Yep.
Kelly always had a hard time with. She's like, I don't understand how you can just like go to Europe and like I feel like I'm not as big a priority. I'm like wherever I'm at, I'm trying to be fully present there. And he's like, don't you miss me? I'm like, I do, but I don't dwell on the fact that I miss you because like that doesn't serve me with where I'm at. So like I miss you and I'm excited to see you again. But then like, but if I'm at this fair, like I need to fully focus and give each customer my presence so that way I can maximize it. So that way I can really enjoy the
Mm,
time that we have together later. Like
right.
do the right things now so that later you can reap the benefits.
So is there any part of your business that you kind of waited to change until you had the family that you actually wish you would have realized you could have done earlier on? Or are you like, hey, I wouldn't have changed anything. I needed to build up. So I had the opportunity to now, like, as you said, work my database. Is there anything that you wish you would have realized you could have done differently way before?
Um, yes and no. It's like, in some regards, I think about, maybe the time with family that I like, just my immediate family. I have seven siblings. I'm really close with
Mm,
them. A lot of nieces and nephews. And it's like, I was gone, like I was on the road a lot. And like, again, I enjoy what I do so much and who I do it with that it's like, it didn't feel like a grind or like a lot of work, especially because like there wasn't something I was directly missing out. It wasn't my kid's birthday I was missing. It was like maybe my niece or my nephews. And so like I'm grateful that I like, I used to say this is like make hay while the sun's shining. It's like, hey, like don't wait. It's like so often we're doing things the opposite, right? So it's like, you don't be tilling when it's harvest time.
mm,
That was the job for the spring. And then don't be trying to make hay, which is like cutting it down. Like you want it to be dry, you want it to be sunny. So recognize the seasonal life, and take advantage of that. For Bert, it was like he went after that million that year very intentionally. He was like, I know I want to start focusing on my relationship, putting more balance in my life. Like this is my last year potentially to really go after this because next year, I could be in a different a different point in my relationship. We could be moving more towards a serious thing. Like again, and if not this year, like it could be 10 years until I hit it. Josh Muller was the same thing. He's like, this is the year. If I don't hit it this year, like I can't be on the road like I need to be to hit a million. I don't want to do it anymore. And so it's like again having that recognizing like that season of life you're in, and then just being willing to embrace that season of life.
mm.
We just got out of like a month long like grind, and it was like just back to back to back to back to back to back. But it's like again, when there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. It's just like, hey, like we're gonna have like 3 months to just enjoy, be at home, nest, settle. And if I had been if Kelly had been focusing and distracting me with it too, but like focusing on nesting over the last month and like trying to squeeze stuff in these few precious moments we had at home, then that would have made that whole experience way more miserable.
Yeah.
Now we have this full month, before the baby where it's like, hey, we're pretty much just at home. Like now we can work on a house project, we can work on a yard.
So much
Now's the time.
communication with you and your spouse too, and being on the same page going into it. I mean, that's huge. When you're talking about going into moments and seasons of, we talk about season of life, like seasons of the year where it's like, hey, I could double down right now when it makes the most sense and sell twice as much in half as much time. I don't want to be doubling down with the small fruit and have to work twice as hard for half as much. But making that mental just commitment of, okay, this is the season of the year that we're in, and now's the time to really going after it. Um, your division, North Star, that you're a part of, you guys just did $10 million for the year last year. And I've got so much respect for you guys. I love Dane. Talk to him often. Really look up to him big time. And I've joked to my division, said, man, they're like the CSP factory. Like they just keep oozing out
Churn them
everywhere.
out.
It's awesome. And you obviously you're one of the, and I don't want to speak with 100% confidence, but I feel like you're one of the longest standing CSPs in North Star. So you've been a part of
Mhm.
it way before it was a CSP factory. You were like one of the first product models off the line, right? So you've been able to watch it expand. And I wanted to ask because it feels as though your CSP crew and Dane have a synergy, maybe a relationship. It just feels like you guys are rowing in the same direction big time, and that there's a lot of interaction there. Can you talk a little bit about what you feel like if I'm a CSP or event coordinator, if I'm a DVM listening to this, what can we learn from you guys in terms of DVM, CSP, events team synergy that you feel like you guys do a pretty good job of that might not be getting duplicated across the country?
Yeah. One is being tied to the same vision. It's like, for me, I'm not gonna like, hey, we have this push. I need you to produce this CPO this time. Like, hey, like I'm gonna produce this much CPO this year. Like, just it's gonna come when it comes. Like, if it happens to correspond with
Yep.
something that helps you, that's awesome. But again, having that conversation, I think sometimes DVMs that I've seen and interacted with sometimes have this kind of like a, hey, like they'll almost treat their CSPs like a DM, like, hey, I need you to produce right now for me. It's like, hey, how can we partner together? We're a partnership. Like for me, like I want to be part of a championship team. Like that was something that I loved. Growing up, like I was involved in sports and stuff, and it's like again being part of something bigger than myself. So one is like getting tied into the same vision as like and what we're building towards, and then how can what I'm doing fit into the bigger picture? And so for me, it was, I definitely come from a place of abundance and abundance mindset. And it's like when I first came in, like that was not the culture here. The two or three CSPs, there were lone
Mhm.
wolves. There was a lot of fighting for what's mine, and a lot of selfishness, I would say. And again, just scarcity. And over a very very long period of time, like I took over as a coordinator and just chipped away at it, chipped away at it, chipped away at it. And then, we brought in new people. And again, that's really where like Dane, when he took over as the DVM in 2012, it's like he did the same thing. He chipped away at it, chipped it away, chipped away at it until he had the right people, and then he just built that culture around those people. And I was like the CSP he built it around, and it's like, and we've developed them. But then what I did a good job of, and what Dane did a good job of, was recognizing like, cool, like Seth was the right CSP to run the division when it was like 5 to 6 CSPs, and then as the coordinator, and then and I was like, hey, the next iteration is making the team bigger and more systems. I'm not a systems guy.
Mm.
I'm a hey, I'm a high level salesperson. I can teach high level salespeople how to be better CSPs.
You
So
were
then
the
I hand like
build, ramp up, get things going. Okay, now if it's gonna get any better, it's up to
and
you.
then I handed it to Bert, and then Bert modeled TGP's program, and it's like, and then again we built
Mm.
that for years. And I mean, TGP, beware! Like we are gunning for you. Like we will beat them.
Shots fired.
We
Shots
will
fired.
beat them. They've touted that they've been the number one division for whatever 10 years running, and it's like, and they are, and like that's awesome. It's always great to have somebody to chase. It's also funny too because I'm like both Bert and myself are a big part of their state fair project, and so it's an irony that we're
Every
like
order you write up down there, you're like,
helping
dang
them beat
it.
us. Yeah, but it's a great synergy. And again, it's how can what Dane has done a good job of is just how can I partner with my CSPs? Like what can I do to love on them? And just recognizing too, it's like he's like, yeah, I'm never going to teach you how to sell Cutco. Like you know more about how to sell Cutco than I do. But how can I help you develop personally? How can I, again, like the rising tide raises all ships. It's like for him, it's bringing us on a retreat, doing dreams workshops with us, running us through his new iteration where it's like loading it into the dream vault and helping us build the lives of our dreams, knowing that like, hey, if we're building the life of our dream, it's going to propel our division and therefore him to new
Yeah.
heights. And that's been something that again, having that partnership with him, and then just being somebody that's like doing things that build the camaraderie of the team, that people want to help them out. It's really cool at the end of the year when um, like I'm consistently checking in, like, hey, how are we doing? Like, how did January program go? Like, I'm tied to, like, I'm invested in his success, and I want to see him succeed, and I want to see our division succeed. And it's like, it's really fun being part of a championship team. And so it's like, hey, maybe you guys are 5 years away from that or 10 years away from that, but it's like it starts with today. So it's like making the decision today, and it's like, and just, again, I think a lot of times people are jealous when they see a team that's got great culture and great, great people and great friendship, and they're like, man, I wish we had that, but we just don't. Like our CSPs don't. I'm like, well, it starts with you. It
Yeah.
starts with your attitude. Like,
Yep.
are you being the person that's building that and attracting that, or are you being the person that's, in a sense, like, are you net neutral? Are you net positive? Are you net negative? Are you pulling it down? Or are you pushing it forward? And so that's where, I'm mentoring a couple of kids in my region. And I was like, hey guys, like, it's really easy to look at another division that has a great culture and go like, man, I wish we had that, but we just don't have it. Our people aren't like that. I'm like, you guys are the influence.
Yeah,
You guys are part
you're
of the
there,
team.
right? Like you're on
Yeah.
that team you're talking about, right?
Like you got to build it. You got to become the person that attracts that. Like 8 years ago when I was single, like I was like, yeah, I desire to be in a relationship. I desire to, to be married. And I was like, and my mentor at the time was like, hey man, like, are you the person,
Mm.
and are you being the person that's going to attract that person? Like your ideal mate, like write them down, like write down details of them, like write out characteristics they would have. Are you being the person that they would be attracted to? Focus on doing that. Focus on being the person that would attract that, and you'll be amazed how it'll happen. It'll manifest, like they'll appear in your life, and they'll be attracted to you because you're putting out into the universe, like, what would attract that person. So
Mm.
that's yeah, it's funny because, like, again, I was the CSP that was jealous of TGP's culture, 10 years ago, and now we've built that here. And again, um division wise, like I'm sure, like I was always jealous of, like, Drew Frank's, like, just championship, it's like silver cup. Oh yeah, we just got four silver cups, four silver, three silver cups this year, four silver cups this year. I'm like, I want to be the one getting all this. Like, I want our team and our division to be the ones getting all the silver cups. Like, it starts with you. Like, you're the influence of that. So start doing it. Start implementing the changes you would love to see, and start being the person that would attract other people to that. And again, it starts with today, and you'll be amazed because, again, Tony Robbins talks about people underestimate what they can accomplish, or overestimate what they can accomplish in a year, and underestimate what they can accomplish in 5 and in 10 and in 20 years. So
I mean, you guys are absolutely proof of it. Top of the class in terms of CSP leadership. It's really, really fun to watch. Last question I got for you, with this last minute we have is, what's something that I should have asked you today, or you wish I would have asked you today, that you think would help our CSP community the most?
good question. What I would say, what is going to be your single biggest needle mover? It's like, I don't think people focus on that enough. I think again, we think like, oh, I'll grow because I'm better this year than I was last year. Like, well, what evidence is there of that? Again, events can be up and down, but it's like, there's a CSB, Sarah Turner, in our division, who just worked an event that the traffic was 15 to 20% down this year. She had less orders, so that was evidence too of the fact that the traffic was down, and she sold 6K more. She sold 16.5 at this event, and she gave the breakdown, and it was no surprise that she grew. It was like, she had an ultimate, big needle mover. She had 3 signatures, big needle mover. Those two things. It was like this, like, if those were all galleys and homemakers, she sells half of what she sold. So it's like, I think there's a limiting belief that people have that, like, oh, well, my events just don't produce that. I'm like, one, BS. The reason I know that's BS is because I have small county fairs that I used to work that I would sell 10 grand at consistently.
Dude, as soon as you ask somebody about their now big events and they talk about what they were 10, 15 years ago, it's like, no. We had those small events. We had those.
Like,
We were
we
experiencing
grew
those.
them.
Yep.
We grew
Yep.
them into what they are. And also, like, I do know that, like, that again, like, statistics matter. Like, again, there are some events that are just have way bigger like way higher ceilings than others. But I go, you would be blown away by what's possible when you change the rep that's at the event.
Mm.
And what I said, and you have the ability to do that. You are the rep. You could change the rep that's at the event by just showing up as a better version of yourself, a more skilled version of yourself. Again, maybe at that event you only talk to 15 people total over 3 or 4 or 5 days, but you close 13 of those 15 people, and 13 of those 15 people buy a set. And not a small set, they buy homemaker signatures and ultimates. 2 or 3 of those are combo deals. One of those is a business gift, upsells business gifts. And now it's a 15, 20, 30K event. Like, that's possible. And I hope and challenge anyone that's listening to this. It's like, blow up what it's done in the past. Like, go out and set new standards and new records. And again, it starts with you, and it starts with your willingness to work a little harder on the front end to really sharpen that axe and, maximize your opportunity. Because again, we're all given the same amount of time. How are some people producing 2, 3, 4 times what you're producing in the same amount of time, working the same number of events?
I can't wait to see what conversations we're having 10 years from now within the CSP community. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy what you guys are accomplishing, not just in one division or two, but across the entire nation. It's so much fun to watch. It is, there are many ways within our manager community that I look at what you guys are doing. I'm like, man, if we were exploring best practices and diving into them as much as you guys are, I'd be really excited to see what might happen for our side of things. And seriously, Seth, thank you so much for making time. You're busy, you got a family, you just had a lot of travel, you just got doubled down on work so you could enjoy these last couple of months of pregnancy to welcome your first boy to the world. And I know there are tons and tons of reasons and excuses people can think of when I reach out and want to carve out 60 minutes and do an episode. And it'd be really easy to choose one. And for you to be able to selflessly give us 60 minutes of your time today to help us get better, that means the world to us, man. So seriously, thank you so much for everything you do in the podcast, outside of it, all the messages you give every year at Net. Even though you didn't break a hole in your new suit to do your high kick, well, maybe next year. Seriously, it means the world to us, man. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Brett, for doing this. Like, again, I don't know of any DVM that's taken the time to do this for his CSPs and for his community. So thank you to you as well. And I'm glad I could give back. And a lot of people have helped me get where I am, and I'm happy if I can help somebody else do the same thing.
Dude, I'm thinking you're helping quite a few. I think you paid it forward. We seriously, it's felt. Well, hey, that is another episode of CSP Hot Hands. We will see you on our next one. Have an awesome day.
Thanks for listening. And for some of you watching, I want to remind you that all resources from today can be found at linktree/CSP60. That's linktr.ee/CSP60. That's linktree/CSP60 with a dot before the EE. If you want to be a member of our live Zoom audience for one of our upcoming shows, email bwiggins@vectormarketing.com. That's BWIGGINS@vectormarketing.com. If you loved what you heard today, I'd be honored if you followed, subscribed, or even rated us on whatever platform you use to find your 60 minutes of fire. We'll see you next time.
Sounds good. And I'll give you a quick high kick, obviously.
Oh, we got it.
I assume you can edit this in, but
we can put it in. This is no stretch. This is just
no stretch.
Cold.
This is just here we go.
Yeah. Okay, so here's the deal. You got the flare going in the front. You got mid flare. You got above. I think that was a 5'9.5". That was. Oh yeah, definitely higher. 100%.
There we go. The first one stretched it just enough.
Oh, thanks so much, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, absolutely, Brett. We'll talk to you.